The NZXT Kraken Z series AIO liquid cooler is a fairly new product from NZXT, which was announced quite a while ago, and today we'll be looking at one of the cooler in the lineup, which is the Kraken Z53 we have right here. Okay, so before we get into the main content of this video, let me tell you guys why the cooler right here is somewhat inverted, because if you take a closer look at the numbers right here, yes, it's upside down. We did it like this because of the limitation of the motherboard layout and because of, the pump design of the cooler itself, which is not really compatible with this motherboard. Installing it in the right orientation will kind of make the first RAM slot unusable. So this is the kind of thing we can think of while doing the test. And yes, we've done the test with this setup as well. So without any further ado, let's take a look into what kind of features and performance you can expect from the Kraken Z53. So a brief introduction to the Kraken Z series coolers is that it comes with three different models: the Z53, Z63 and Z73. So starting off with the Z53 we have here, it's actually a 240mm red cooler, and going up with the numbers, Z63 is 280mm and Z73 is a 360mm red. The naming is kind of irrelevant at this point, but well, NZXT wants to name it like this, and that is up to them. But naming aside, if we look at the design of the cooler itself, you can see that it comes with a fairly familiar looking 240mm radiator. But one thing I noticed is that the tubes is actually very flexible as compared to most of the AIO I've tried in the past. So with the flexibility it has right here, you can actually fit it in quite a number of cases without any, worries on how tough the tube is and will it kink. So from the test we have here, because we do it on a test bench, we can just flip it around in any kind of direction, and we have yet to see any kind of weird kinks, and it doesn't really affect the overall performance. So that's a good thing about the flexible tubes right here. So the pump right here is actually based on the 7th gen Acetic cooler, which is quite a powerful AIO pump to begin with. So you can pretty much expect a very decent performance from the Kraken Z53, Z63 or even the Z73. Aside of the powerful pump, NZXT also equipped this main pump, yes, with a display. So the display is actually customizable through the CAM software. Yes, CAM from NZXT. If you are using NZXT products from the past, you realize that CAM is actually a pretty nice software for, system monitoring and some extra customization if the product allows. So that's something you should really install if you're getting yourself a Kraken Z series cooler. So if you install the pump in the actual correct orientation, it looks pretty nice. And of course, by customization, I mean that you can really customize the look of the display right here. You can make it showing the CPU temperature like what it does in default, but with different color spectrum, or you can show both CPU and GPU temperatures together on the display. And you can even have custom GIF, if you decide to put a beating heart just to show that this is the heart of my system. That's one of the things you can do with the cooler here as well. Of course, if you need it to work as intended, the product has to be detected in the CAM software. So in order to do that, you need to use the included USB cable to do so. That aside, NZXT also included a proprietary cable for the Kraken Z53, which is, I won't say a cable mess, but plenty of cable for you to connect. So the special thing about the proprietary cable included with the Kraken Z53 is that it allows you to power up the pump with the SATA cable and power up your fans, as well as connecting the pump itself to the motherboard headers to be controlled by the software. So that's a pretty well-made design, I would say, even though the cable is still a lot, looking like an octopus for some time. But one thing to highlight is that even though NZXT did provide the correct orientation on the pump for you to connect the cable, you can actually still force it in the wrong orientation. Doing so will kind of like render the pump useless, because I've tried that and I thought the pump is defective until I realized that I got it in the wrong orientation. So do take note of that, make it in the correct orientation before you start your system. And now to the performance. I would say it's definitely one of the best performing 240mm AIO I've tried. Even when it's operating at silent mode, it still cools down our i7 8700K at 5 GHz without breaking a sweat. And even if you ramp up the performance to performance mode, the fan is barely audible and you still get a very good performance out of it. Oh yeah, in case if you guys want to know how quiet it is, here's something for you. Can you hear? No, right? So yes, this shows how silent the cooler is. Even from very close distance like this, the fan is barely audible. So that makes a good choice if you're building, a silent rig, but you need this kind of aesthetics. While the installation is very easy, something to take note is that the kind of design for this pump might not be compatible for all motherboards, especially for the ROG Maximus 10 Apex we have here. Installing it in the intended or correct orientation will render your first RAM slot unusable. So this is something you might want to take note before getting yourself one. Though NZXT did put in quite some attention when it comes to the installation, especially when they actually included spacers for the mounting nut right here. So with the spacers placed in between the mounting bracket and the secure nut, it will prevent you from scratching the mounting bracket as long as you don't over tighten it. So that's a pretty good thing if you really want to, keep the mounting bracket looking nice and clean. So the SRP for the Kraken Z53 is retailed at Ringgit Malaysia of 969 Ringgit, which is a rather premium price tag for a liquid cooler you can find in the market. Though it's a niche product for those who are really looking into making their system fancy if they have the extra budget to go for. And for those of you who are looking into a much more affordable alternative for the Kraken Z53, well, you can actually consider for the Kraken X53, which doesn't come with customizable panel, but still offers a pretty good looking aesthetics and decent performance if NZXT is your brand to go for. And yeah, so that sums up our video for today. Do let us know what do you think of the Kraken Z53 right here. Will you go for the Kraken Z53 or will you go for the more affordable Kraken X53? Do let us know in the comment down below and I will see you guys in the next video.